For quite some time, Elton, Castee and Matt Rife have been kind of teasing and more so building suspense to the live stream that was to come for the announcement of their most recent purchase of a haunted property. None of us really knew what was going on, what they had bought, but a lot of us were really thinking it was the Conjuring house. And hey, I was on the same Delulu train. I also thought it was the Conjuring house, and I was kind of hoping it was the Conjuring. I think a lot of us had a lot of hope that it was a Conjuring house for several different reasons, right? Just to be in good hands and things like that. The live stream went live July 31st, and it was announced that they did indeed buy the Warren Occult Museum. They had teased that they had bought the most haunted property in America. We weren't far off. I will say that we were not that far off. So it does make a lot of sense when, if you guys watch, I'm assuming you guys do, but if you guys watch Jay Cart's, he had done, I don't know if it was a live stream or a video, I think it was a video, and then he had mentioned that he truly believed it was a Conjuring house. And I'm not gonna lie, I was on the same Delulu train. I genuinely thought it was the Conjuring house, and we were not alone. I know in the live stream there were so many comments during the live chat saying the same thing. They would bet their soul that it was the Conjuring house. But it makes a lot of sense, the comment that Elton Castee left on Jay Cart's video, kind of saying something along the lines that you're closer than you think. So a lot of us though were like, no, it's the Conjuring house, but in reality, no, it was indeed the Warren Occult Museum. And I did watch, I think, the entire live stream that happened July 31st. I was having some technical difficulties. That is why this video is a little bit late. But I will say during the video in the live stream, I find it interesting that Elton Castee even mentioned that he was trying to trick us into thinking that it was the Conjuring house. I think he knew if he stood in front of a brick wall or like the basement, yada yada, a lot of us would jump to the conclusion that it was the Conjuring house. And I'm not gonna lie, that was definitely me. I genuinely thought it was the Conjuring house. But hey, I can see why he said it's closer than you think, because it is an Ed and Lorraine Warren's like museum. And it's crazy because I was like, wait, this wasn't even open. And I went back, researched a little bit, and I guess it had been closed for like 6 years. Ed and Lorraine Warren's museum in Connecticut had actually closed to the public. It closed 2019 due to zoning violations that prohibit a museum in the residential neighborhood. So it was closed for quite some time. And I do know that in the past few years, there were some investigate or paranormal channels that were allowed to investigate there, even though it was technically closed to the public. Some channels I believe were allowed to. I know Elton Castee, Corey as well. Other people had gone there to investigate the museum, but no one had really investigated the actual Ed and Lorraine Warren's house. From what it seems on the live stream, no one was really allowed there. So I think that's why a lot of people are excited that they're finally gonna be able to like investigate the actual house, you know, the one that has been shown in the Conjuring series, like the actual movies.
This is it, everyone. Welcome to the world's most haunted house that Matt and I purchased.
In the live stream, Elton Castee kind of goes through like what happened, how they got the property, like how it even came into fruition, things like that. But they did seem to mention that they purchased the property, but when it comes to the actual museum and the artifacts in the museum, that they are only the legal guardians. The actual artifacts and like the dolls, everything that is in there is not, they didn't purchase the items. They are just the legal guardians for, I believe they said 5 years. The live stream that happened on Saturday where Josh, exploring with Josh, was there. They did a live investigation. It went about like, I think it was 4 hours. There's 2 videos, but I think the part 2, technically they just smashed it together because spirits were kind of attacking the live stream. Allegedly spirits were attacking the live stream. But we'll get into it at the end. Okay, so I just wanted to apologize ahead of time. I feel like my thoughts are like all over the place. So I'm trying to portray them in the best way possible and as neatly and as coordinated as possible. As the live stream was going on, I found it interesting that Elton was kind of mentioning what like his plans for the haunted property, the museum, like all these things, like what his plans are for the future. And I mean the very near future, if I am correct. But Elton mentioned that he wanted it to kind of be like an overnight location. And I believe he said that 8 people max was going to be the limit where they could be there overnight. Of course, there would still be like caretakers and people around, just confirming and double checking that the rules are set in place and are being abided by. Since it has been closed for so many years, I remember from the live stream he did mention that he would hope, in the future, possibly maybe opening up the museum for the public. Maybe, you purchase your ticket, you go there for the day or a few hours, $20-$30, whatever. You go in there, kind of look around. Maybe there's like a caretaker or someone on there, like giving a tour, right? Like the history, the stories behind each artifact, each doll, each thing. I feel like we cannot talk about the Ed and Lorraine Warren's Occult Museum without mentioning Dan Rivera. Rest in peace. He did pass away very, very recently. And so I truly found it admirable that they are actually doing the whole live stream that happened July 31st was all like basically a fundraiser. And even the like mystery boxes, I believe he said, that he was selling during the live stream that was up on the website, they were all going towards Dan Rivera's family. So I found that very admirable. He didn't have to do that, but he did out of his heart, his kindness of his heart. And he mentioned multiple times that this would not have happened. Him purchasing the museum would not have happened if it weren't for Dan Rivera, because I guess he had been the one to initially reach out, say, hey, like, are you interested in the property? Like, I guess like a lot of things wouldn't have happened. And it's very unfortunate because Elton had mentioned that Dan Rivera had a lot of ideas. Elton and Dan Rivera were like, going back and forth with what ideas, what to do. They were both very excited. They were jumping ideas off of each other, what to do next. I guess they had bought some like wood chairs or something, and then Dan Rivera was gonna kind of like remodel them and do something with them for the museum or the house. So they were very, very excited. But I will say it was very, very interesting, and I was very, very like, it tugged at the heartstrings a little bit knowing that the fundraiser raised about $90,000 to go towards his family, Dan Rivera's family. So I thought that was very, very nice and very, very cool that they did that fundraiser during the live stream. And he kept having to, they kept selling out. So they kept putting more like, I don't know if mystery boxes or more products on the website.
Is trying to find a permanent home for the Warren's Occult Museum that's currently here that can be open to the public. Do not believe any of this would have ever happened without Dan.
So I wanted to touch on this briefly just because we are talking about Dan Rivera, how he was very much involved with the museum, with Elton. He had initially reached out to Elton, kind of seeing if he was interested in buying a property, things like that. So with his passing, I did want to mention like the disrespect that was going on in the internet. Like things were circulating. There were spirit box sessions happening. When it comes to the spirit box session channels that are creating these videos right after their passing for clicks and views, that I do not think is okay. Morally, ethically, it is just not okay. And as soon as Dan Rivera was no longer with us, just 2 days after, there were people trying to do these spirit box sessions, trying to communicate with them. And I don't understand why people do this. Where a celebrity, someone big, Ozzy Osbourne passed away very recently as well. Like there were quite a few people passing away recently, and all these spirit box sessions always happen. And I just felt like it was so disrespectful to see that. I had seen one in particular where, I'm not going to say no names, but there was a spirit box session and she was trying to communicate with Dan Rivera and then trying to form a narrative of what's happening, what's going on. Like, how did you pass? Was it the animal doll? Like all these things. It was just 2 days. Like, I feel like these channels have to really think about their families, and like they're still grieving. They're still trying to process what is going on. Do you sincerely think that this person is already trying to communicate with you through a spirit box session? Anyways, I just wanted to mention that little tidbit. When it comes to the spirit box sessions, I have seen them circulating the internet, specifically with Dan Rivera as well. And it is insane. A lot of news articles as well were being pushed out mentioning the Annabelle doll first for some reason, or mentioning the Annabelle doll on tour, yada yada. Like, I feel like the focus was on the wrong thing. So during the live stream, I found that interesting. I don't know if you guys like also heard this part, but he did mention the Conjuring house. He was trying to trick some people, or like he knew kind of like if he had been standing in front of a brick wall, a lot of people would just assume it was a Conjuring house, things like that. And then they started talking in front of the live stream, talking about like if he would be up for buying it, and I believe he said he would be up for it.
And this is why it's so interesting to me about the Conjuring house. The only time Matt and Dan ever met was at the Conjuring house. Interesting to me because I still have that thought in the back of my head that, like, is that next?
I know that there has been a lot of conversation when it comes to Ed and Lorraine's background, per se, in the paranormal, their work. Is it real? Is it not real? Are they being genuine? Are they frauds, scammers? Like, you know what I mean? All these different things. If you were to just look up Ed and Lorraine Warren, like, you're going to see all these things out there. And this is me just stating a fact that this information is out there. If you were to look up Ed and Lorraine Warren fraud on Google or like anywhere, a lot of different like things would pop up, right? So it's not just me trying to like badmouth them and things like that. No, this stuff is out there. But there have been a lot of things, and I have seen a lot of things, heard a lot of things, even like tried to do my research, things like that, because when it comes to the Conjuring series, like the movies, they really portray them in like the prettiest, beautiful spotlight of like this amazing couple that everyone should aspire to be as a paranormal couple, right? Like, they are the it couple when it comes to paranormal, and like they are the most amazing investigators. They've gone through so much, things like that. So it's very interesting. And with the museum, I will say, do I believe that these artifacts are haunted? Do they have spirits in them? Things like that. Do I believe that personally? No. If you had asked me maybe like 5 years ago, yeah, I would have 100% believed it. But I feel like now I'm not that naive. Do I believe that these artifacts are haunted? No, I do not. But hey, do I think it would be interesting to go there? Like maybe go for like a little museum tour if they ever did open up? Absolutely. I think it would be fun and interesting to at least visit. I think it would also be like super interesting if I saw more of the skeptical, or let's just say even like the debunker community going over there, investigating themselves. I don't know if they would be allowed to investigate there because they are more skeptical, things like that. But I think it would be fascinating to allow more skeptical people to go in there and investigate, see what they hear, see what's going on, right? Like, I think that would be interesting. And I believe Elton even mentioned that when they start doing the overnight tours, things like that, he is open to ideas. He is open to you guys giving out like what should they do, right? They're just very open. Elton had mentioned that he would really like to have like a lot of equipment out. If you are new or a more seasoned investigator, there would be like equipment for you to use, like a DR60, a little spirit box, like all these different things. If you are more newer to this type of thing, maybe newer to investigations and such, I think it would be very interesting to have that, you know, those devices there for you already without you having to purchase them. Because if you don't already know, a DR60 is like in the thousands of dollars, and that's just one piece of equipment. So I can imagine buying all this equipment and using so many devices. Like, if you're curious about one or two or three different devices, use them during the investigation. Even if you're skeptical, use them, see if you could kind of debunk them yourself while you're there, things like that. So once the investigation starts, they have all these different devices, and they go through the little tunnel or like the little hallway that was always sealed off to the public. So Exploring with Joss is very, very excited. They go through, and then they have a lot of different devices out and ready to play. They do have the DR60 as well. As soon as I saw that, I did kind of frown a little bit, because obviously, like, you have seen a lot of people kind of like debunk the DR60.
The box. Oh my god, the box. The box. Magic, the box. The box she's in.
Yes.
Loving it. What you were getting, like S's method wise, nuts. The Spirit Chat box, nuts. The Bell Precision, nuts. Ovilus, like everything was.
So I was getting something, and I heard I got 23 a few times, and someone's trying to say something about like there's a 23-year-old.
I'm gonna stop you right there, Josh. There are no 23-year-olds in the museum around, maybe down the street or nearby, but not specifically in that location. I think they were even trying to correlate someone's t-shirt, like the back of the shirt had 23, so they're trying to correlate that somehow into the story. Now they're trying to figure out where the 23 is coming from. But I feel like specifically from what I have seen and heard from like more seasoned investigators, things like that, because I'm very much like on the surface level, right? But a lot of seasoned investigators will mention, like, when it comes to these devices, you shouldn't try and create your narrative, because now you're the one telling the story instead of these spirits or ghosts. It should be the other way around. They should be the ones telling you their story. If you're asking them a very direct question, you should not start to like try and connect the dots. Asking a direct question, you should be expecting a direct answer back. If you do not, don't try and connect those dots. Just go to the next question. And to me, it seems like every little device that was going off was just adding on and then kind of creating their narrative. And they kept kind of like, yeah, see, like it's the equipment is going off. There's like activity here, this and that. And then there is a point where this is why I'm not the biggest fan of the DR60. It is highly expensive, and then at the same time, it is not credible. So there was a segment where they are using the DR60, exploring what Josh loves to use the DR60. He had mentioned he couldn't wait for that. And they're using the DR60. They're all, I believe they're talking. Elton is like saying a phrase, saying something, and then they play it back and let's hear what is said.
Yeah, sure.
What if we try one right in front of
Like
the DR60?
Sure, let's do it.
Over and over again. Annabelle, 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 Annabelle. The whole time.
Whispering, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Whispering.
Okay, see, because I hear Annabelle too.
Annabelle. The number 23, were you referring to me?
They all claim to hear Annabelle, like the word Annabelle being said multiple times. I couldn't necessarily hear that. Maybe y'all did, maybe y'all did, y'all didn't, but I could not hear that. They said they would enhance it later down the line or like after the video. I haven't seen that surface yet, but from what I'm trying to hear, like I do not hear Annabelle. I have seen videos where like there are people kind of scientifically breaking down the DR60, Kenny Biddle per se, and I believe even Mr. Gray had done a video recently where kind of break down the DR60 and mentioning how like when there are like silent spots or like no one is speaking, sometimes you'll hear these like kind of demonic quote unquote growls, but it's just the DR60 doesn't do well when there are silence or like there are those like silent areas in our conversation or like a question is asked and there's like silent. A lot of different channels have gotten that like demonic growl. They'll ask a question, there'll be silence for a little bit and keep talking, and then there's kind of like that type of like growl per se, but it's not necessarily demonic or anything. It's just some type of like technical thing. This is coming from someone that has very little knowledge when it comes to these devices. I do not own these, but from what I have seen, you can always go check out like the more knowledgeable channels and they'll definitely break it down a little bit more than I can. There is no concrete evidence, at least when it comes to like devices. There is no device that is 100% confirmed that can detect ghosts. There just isn't yet. So just some final thoughts. I feel like this is like a wait and see type of situation where they're possibly reopening it to the public, at least in terms of the museum, or you can come in, maybe possibly buy like a ticket or like a quick ticket, go in there, have a tour guide explain different things like that. But when it comes to like Ed and Lorraine Warren and their legacy and like all these things in the Conjuring movies, portraying them in the light that they weren't really in real life is just, you know, like I feel like, at least for me, I have very conflicting thoughts when it comes to Ed and Lorraine Warren and everything that has surfaced, everything that has come out, all these different things that are just circulating the internet. It's just very hard to be blind to it. Like it's out there. I'm worried that they'll kind of nitpick who is allowed to come and investigate here. Like I believe Elton had said like anyone could go, anyone would be like, it'd be open to anyone necessarily. There are no factors. You don't have to be a seasoned investigator, things like that. But I'm really wondering if there are going to be any debunkers or any like, you know, skeptical people that are curious to go there, and would they be allowed? How much money would it be if you wanted to go there overnight? Like all these different things, you know, we know that the Conjuring House was super expensive. I am very, very curious how things are going to go, what's going to happen and what's to come. But I feel like that's why I said it's kind of a situation where we have to wait and see, because it hasn't opened yet. There haven't been overnight investigations yet, but they are to come. So I'm very curious to see what's going to happen. And look, this is totally off topic, but I was seeing a video very recently and I'm very curious if Selena, Spooky Boo and Call Me Chris would end up being interested in investigating there, specifically because Selena is kind of wanting to be like the next couple to kind of be Ed and Lorraine Warren, right? They want to go do these like, and not investigations per se, but go to these houses, kind of see what's going on, use her clairvoyance and her psychic medium abilities, all these things. It's very interesting because when it comes to Selena, a lot of people will try and fight and say no, she's not psychic, she's not a medium, but then she's doing all these psychic and medium things, so it's like, which one isn't? Like, but I'm curious to see if Selena and Chris will go there, and if Selena will try and communicate with Lorraine and kind of get like this, like kind of get the approval to continue to do what she's doing. Go do what Ed and I used to do. Selena, go do it. Go. Like, I'm very curious to see what happens there and what's going to happen next.
legit.